Hey, this is Dani Keenan, and I'm breaking down my brand new album, The Digital Age of War. Well, I've always loved concept records. When I think of big, grandiose concept albums, I think of chorus pedals, big reverby drums, big, long breaking epics kind of deal. A few notable examples come to mind, like Iron Maiden's Seventh Son, Queensrÿche Operation Mindcrime, and things like that. You know, Warlord and the Cannons of Destruction. From a songwriting perspective, I wanted to do something that kind of reflected on my more broader musical interests. A lot of pop records that I just adore. Whether it's classic stuff like Michael Jackson, Prince, or even more contemporary stuff for me. Big Gaga fan, the art pop album, it's a huge influence on me, and then even more contemporary stuff like stuff coming out from like artists like Massive Ears and Grant Carpenter. Huge influence in the way that I kind of look at songs and song structure and the way that I do that kind of thing. So in its more condensed form, the story is essentially, future dystopia type deal. So it's the year 2075, and the whole Earth has been taken over by machines. There's only a small group of humans left in the world, and they lead a small rebel army led by, the hero of our story. And, they lead the charge in what seems to, from the very get-go, to be a very futile effort. There's only, a few, it's one small army. But they lead the charge, and it starts out with 2075. And, we established that the hero, because they lead this big army, that they are placed under arrest by the robots. And the causation for the arrest was because they used a weapon against them. The weapon is the guitar. Music, all human kind of activity that they don't understand and will use and weapons to be put on trial for death. So our hero not only needs his army, but they're also a one man. So it's a very dangerous situation, which leads into, for the final time, which is the big, rallying cry, the main kind of, we stay here and we fight until, the end, and what's probably for the final time, which is to say, there's only a small handful, and this is really their last shot to, if nothing else, make a big statement for themselves. Which then leads into Android's Dream of Death, which is really just the whole human perspective from their side, where they just have this pure vitriol for, the machine overlords of their world, where they just see them, no sympathy whatsoever, they fight, this is personal for them. And that shows that perspective. But then we can move into Key, the first single from the album, where we're kind of seeing opposing viewpoints, where the first verse is a more sympathetic from the mechanical side, where they feel that the current status of things now creates a sense of order, and that the humans were getting too out of control, and that the current state of things solved a lot of problems for them. But then we get to the second verse, and we see more of a human perspective where humanity itself is worth fighting for, and that's a noble cause in itself. And the chorus for both perspectives is, now we know what's going on. Both sides feel it's like an obvious, plot against them, that they see through the facade, and they know what's really going on. But that's from both sides and both perspectives feel that same kind of thing. So then we get back into a couple instrumentals that sandwich in between the main theme. And this section of the album really shows, that battle itself, where we get into our escape, which is, escaping the initial, legal battle from, the hero, and escaping a death charge, and really preparing for this big final battle. Which leads into calculating the end at the end, where it shows the kind of how futile that effort really was, because there was no battle, they were always going to lose. And that sandwiches in between Mechanical Monsters, the latest single from the album, where it's really just the main theme, the whole story encapsulated in one song. And the real notable part here is towards the end, there's the bridge, where from the hero's voice, they say, I guess this is what we deserve, which is starting to sow the seed of, resentment for the human side. And maybe this was brought on upon themselves. And so after the battle section, we get into the title track. And this is the lowest point for all of them. They've lost the final battle, and it's only the hero and 2 others from their whole group that are left alive. And we start off in this very somber place, and we hear from the hero, and we hear about the other 2, which isn't mentioned by name. And then the hero goes on a bit of a rant, and just kind of decides that the whole thing is meaningless, and kind of a what's the point kind of attitude, right? And after the instrumental break, we get the hero's revelation, which is really just a preamble to the big, long, epic closer. And in the hero's revelation, the hero decides, whether right or wrong, he comes to the conclusion that the machines were inevitable, and this was always going to be the end result, no matter what happened, because humans built the technology. They programmed them to do certain things. Not only that, but they saw how the humans acted of their own volition, and if they decided that they were a threat, if they decided that they were ruling the world the way that humans rule, that's not a flaw in the program, that's a flaw in humans, right? And so the hero loses their mind, and then for the big long epic Leave My Mind Alone, for the first section, it's really just the hero's been, at all this time, has been kind of been against the machines, but now for this big epic, for the first section, it's just the hero against humanity itself and all of humanity's flaws. And during the halfway point, we get to the point where the big twist happens, and I won't spoil that yet. But there's parts of the story that were left unattended to before this point, but everything wraps up pretty nicely. Every point that was established beforehand, nothing gets forgotten. No stones are unturned. Axe Battles was a record kind of made in frustration. I had been playing music at this point now almost nearly a decade, right? In various projects, various groups, various albums. I had been a part of some really cool albums. Let's see, it was 2017. We were at an IDP, and then a band switched over to the Great Stage and Run record in 2020. But I always kind of saw Axe Battles as my Indian Alcine's Rising Force, right? To where, he was in Alcatraz and Steamer, and he was kind of frustrated with how his, maybe not necessarily his skill set, but how his music was perceived. It wasn't a good representation of things he liked in the region. So when he finally went out to make a solo album, he maybe went a little bit too far in certain directions because he was overemphasizing certain points. And if it wasn't for that album, he wouldn't have gotten things like, I'll See the Lights Tonight and Heaven Tonight from later on records where there was more of a emphasis on songwriting. So with Axe Battles, I love that album, and I'm very proud of it. I really, at the end of the day, it wasn't so much of writing songs, it was of making an album to where people ask like, oh hey, you play music, you're in a band, show me some of your stuff, then I can show them something that I was truly proud of and something that I felt I really represented who I was, and that was really what that album was all about, not necessarily, the songs themselves. But once I established a sound, I wanted to, make an album as an album of one singular statement, like the classic albums I grew up on. Start to finish, this is like a singular piece of work. And when I think of that, of course, concept albums, and that's how it's cool also. Well, there'll definitely be a lot more from me. I already have a third album, halfway done, so we'll be seeing that pretty soon here. But I'm really excited for this record, this era of, Dani Keenan. I'm really hoping to play shows for this era, this record. But there'll be a lot more stuff coming forward, and it's only getting better and better. So thank you guys for watching all this and supporting me and even go career, and I can't wait to see what I'll get to next. Thank you guys for watching, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Digital Age of War, 2014.